employee of the government. But that's the thing is it's like, and then, I genuinely, in my heart of hearts, whether it's left or right, I don't believe that somebody that grew up with a multimillionaire privileged background actually can relate to the struggle of people who didn't grow up with that background, right? And I'm not okay, fine. Let me rephrase. I don't think that someone that grew up with a multimillionaire background, right, whether it's Mamdani or you can name a Republican that grew up wealthy, when they say I'm fighting for you guys, I'm working for you guys, they don't really know, right? They
Yeah.
don't know. They don't actually know, right?
Right.
They're basically like theater. It's like political theater, right? This guy's
Right.
like, I'm fighting for you. I live in a rent stabilized apartment. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been staying in my mom's $2 million apartment in Chelsea. It's just easier to get around in Manhattan when I stay in that one. It's like, what? You know what, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man, right? Like they just all are in for the grift. Like they're like the
You're
guy who passed the broker fee ban. His father was Jay-Z's entertainment lawyer. And
all
he's
right.
like, I'm
Yeah, I remember that.
with
Yeah.
the people. You're not with the people, you know?
Right.
Um, and that's the thing is that we don't have anyone that leads by example. You want to know who leads by example? Curtis Sliwa. Look at Curtis
Yeah.
Sliwa. He's polling at 3%.
I
Okay.
know it's wild. I was very, very impressed by Curtis Lewa because I mean I've listened to him before, but just on the campaign trail now, listening to how candidly honest this guy is. Candidly honest. And it's crazy. I
You
can't
can't.
even
Haven't you ever heard the
understand.
saying? You can't run on the truth.
Apparently not. Apparently
You
not.
can't. You
Because
can't run on the truth.
I'm like anybody who's listening. I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'm getting older, and because to me, I've always been a logical guy. So for me, I'm
Yeah.
just like, okay, if you're telling me the truth, even if there's some good things and some bad things in there, I'm gonna be actually if there is good things and bad things in there, I'm more ready to believe you. I'm more likely to believe you because telling me things are gonna be great and you're gonna do everything and it's all gonna be great has to be a lie. It just don't work.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so I think that you said earlier that Americans were detached from reality. So maybe that's what it is now. We're so detached from reality and we buy into all these narratives and we think that yeah, it's everything that's going wrong must be Donald Trump's fault, or it must be
Yeah. Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
else's fault before him.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Well, also, like, yeah. Listen, I definitely consider myself, I guess, when it comes to social ideas, not fiscal stuff, like very liberal. I don't care what we've talked about this. We
yeah,
grew up in New York, whatever. I don't care what people do. I don't care who you see or who you kiss or like who
yeah,
cares, right? But at the same time, we're also we if you grew up in the 90s, right? And you had a hero or an icon or you looked up to someone, right? They had a level of talent. They had a level of skill, okay?
100%.
Now the Gen Zers are looking up to people who got famous for doing a dance poorly on TikTok, right? Or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So, it's like who are our heroes, who are we looking up to, right? All these people who got rich quick who have no talent, right? And in the 90s, whether you were an actor, right? Now they're putting like influencers in movies to get people to go see them, but they can't act. Okay. So
Horrible.
we've totally lost the plot on that, right? And I think what, not to make it racial, but like who are we taught to look up to? Like the schools now are like, yo, everybody was bad. There are no human beings are flawed by nature. All great
Yeah.
men are flawed, right? White,
Right.
black, it doesn't matter, right? And it's like
Right.
there's this line on Jay-Z's album where he goes, Al Sharpton in the mirror taking selfies. How is him or Bill Cosby supposed to help me? Right? Like, how am I supposed to look up to these guys? Right? One is a federal informant who is like a race hustler who sold his people out, Sharpton, right? And then I think we all know what Cosby was doing when he was lecturing said community on morals and principles, right? And even for me, it's like people always ask me, like, because I won't shut up about Charlie Munger or Warren Buffett, but it's like I genuinely believe like these are the people you should look up to, right? Like, yeah, they're capitalists, they're billionaires, Michael Bloomberg, right? But what
Yeah.
did they do when they got rich? They gave back. What does Warren Buffett say? Warren Buffett says, yeah, I paid 23 billion, whatever it was in taxes last year. It is a privilege to pay tax in this country because I made this money on the system. So I want to pay it back. I want to give my fair share. Warren Buffett comes out and says, I want to pay my fair share of taxes, right? Bezos doesn't do that. Zuckerberg doesn't do that. All of these tech guys, all the tech millionaires and billionaires, they're like a different class, right? I don't know how to explain it, but like these old heads, whether it's Bloomberg or Buffett, it's like Bloomberg donates something like 4 billion a year to something crazy,
Something
right?
crazy. Yeah.
And it's like, all right, right? Not all billionaires are bad, right? But these tech billionaires are the ones that are like evading taxes and right. You look at Buffett, right? Same home, same home since he was like 25 years old, right? And
Yeah.
I know that's a little uncharacteristic, right? But you
Yeah.
look at Zuckerberg, right? These people are like, they are evil. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but they do evil, Dr. Evil shit. Do you know that anytime a home comes up within like a half-mile radius of where Mark Zuckerberg lives in California, he has an LLC shell company buy it. So for the half-mile
I've
drive
heard
in
that.
his home,
Yeah.
all those homes are owned by him, or
I
the
heard that.
evil
Yeah.
shit Bezos does. Bezos moved his residence to Florida to not pay income tax. Then he started selling Amazon shares. And that's where there's a certain line, there's a certain point, right? Where you're
Yeah.
like, listen, man, whether Bezos paid, 5 billion, right, over 10 years in taxes or 7 billion, it is not going to affect his life whatsoever. Now, the $2 billion makes a major difference. Now, the problem
True.
is these guys are avoiding taxes for many reasons because they're greedy, they're sociopathic. But every time I pay my taxes, right, I write my check to the IRS at the end of the year, and because I'm on 1099, I always say the same thing to my friends and my family. This would hurt less if it went towards something somewhat productive. If it wasn't just
Well,
if it wasn't just pissed away. Like if I saw that
right.
kids in public schools were getting like a real lunch or something. It's like, but all it does, they introduced congestion pricing to get into Manhattan to offset the cost for the MTA. And then they
Mhm.
announced, oh, we're raising the fares too.
Of
It's just all,
course.
it's like,
Anyway,
it's like, wait a minute. I thought that's what the congestion tax was for, right?
well, you
Where is all
you
this money going? Where's the
you made two good
accountability?
points. You made two really good points. What you just said.
Yeah.
Two really good
Yeah.
points. One, because I think that that's part of the conversation. One, there are situations where you have ultra rich who aren't paying taxes and they're evading
Yeah.
it. And U.S. tax law was made to screw around. They
Right.
made
Like
it for
Trump
you to
won the
do that.
election. That's why Trump won the election because he said, yeah, right. And Dave Chappelle talks about this. Hillary goes, and he didn't pay taxes. And he grabs the mic. Yeah, I didn't pay taxes. You know who else who didn't pay taxes? Any of her donors. They all use those loopholes. She's been in government for 40 years. Tell her to close the loopholes.
Of
And that
course.
was like a turning point, right?
Yeah.
Where Dave Chappelle called him an honest liar, where he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't pay taxes, but the system's designed. I didn't design the system.
Yeah.
And look, Trump has done nothing to change the system.
Well, he's not going to. But you know what? Honestly, that's the thing. Republican, Democrat, none of them are going to really do anything to change the system. And that's why I said you made a good point, because what's happening now is that we're a country of narratives. So we all
Yeah.
cling to
Yeah.
narratives.